All right, here. Oh, Wi-Fi here at Grace. It seems like it can't really keep up with it. So, all right. So that seems to work. All right. So, okay. So I got really good signal where I'm at. I tried to use the Wi-Fi here at Grace, but apparently you can't use the Wi-Fi here at Grace. Because it's weak, or I'm outside the building and there's an issue. But anyways, guys, so today I want to talk about a couple of videos I did this week. The first one, I was talking to MD Creekmore, and I hope that he's watching, and I do enjoy the actual conversations that I've been having with him as far as the response in the response goes. So, all right, so there we go. I'm just trying to get in the right spot. I'm not trying to move or anything else like that. But anyways, guys, I've got the best bars. I got like 4 bars here, so it's just a matter of time. As I see people come in, I will talk to them. But anyways, one of the things that that I really enjoyed is the fact that I've been having a discourse with MD Creekmore. I'm actually hoping that he, that, you know, kind of, this is my way of trying to get to be able to get some. Him and I are on polar opposites on this subject. He's using history, and he's calling on history and saying, well, you need to, hi to my 2 people that are in here. You know, maybe he'll say that, maybe he will take me up on a collaboration if he actually responds to my last response. I think that's what I'm gonna try and see if I can hit him up for, because quite frankly, that's that I was hoping to do, and that was part of the reason why I made mention of him in the comments. So if you're new to YouTubing and like, you know, as far as what goes on the back end, you know, sometimes in order to grow your channel, you need to be able to collaborate or use somebody else's video as a way to be able to contrast and give your own opinion of it, and this kind of helps the channel grow. And so that's kind of what I'm trying to do here. Is I am, hold on, okay. So yes, I do have, what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to open up some sort of civil discourse, some sort of dialogue between the 2 of us, that, you know, where we can sit back and we can have a discussion, because, you know, he's using what he's learned in history, and what he's learned in history isn't wrong, but it's not the full truth. You know, one of the things he said is that in all these different collapses, everybody went to the city, but you got to realize that these were rural societies to begin with. They had a lot of farmland, or they, and we were a farming community. The thing is this is completely, as you know, what we have done is that we've left the farm and we've come into the city. It is now illegal to be able to grow vegetables in, if not in every city, in most cities. They have come out with legislation or with ordinance. Also, you know, you got to realize that what was it, like 2008, 2009, there were people that were, what's the word I'm looking? They were trying to pass vegetables across their fence, and when they passed the vegetables across their fence, they received a fine because it was, you know, for whatever reason, it was against the city ordinance. And so this is something that I think that is going to play a big part in people being running out of the cities, because, you know, at least in the cities, you know, back in the day, it was mostly houses, very little apartment buildings and things like that, because, you know, you had a house in the city, and, you know, you had the ability to grow your own garden, you know, whereas most people now, at least 30 to 40% of people at some form or fashion are in an apartment. And try growing indoors when you've got a 600 square foot 1 bedroom. Try growing indoors with that. It's gonna be a little bit different. So all right, my mom was born in Apopka. Okay, I was born in Claremont. Oh, okay. So I know exactly where you guys are. I started out in Apopka. So, and Claremont's, I think I've been there once. But anyways, it's, one of the things that I think that is going to be a change from the past is that, with over time, people are going to be fleeing the cities because if you have, and you kind of, I'm starting to see some of this on my travels. I mean, at least people talking about it, is that there are going to be bandits on the road. So you've got trucks that are coming in and out of the road or in and out of a city. Well, those trucks might get raided, especially if there's food shortages or if you've got, organized crime that's doing their thing. You have different obstacles that you have to face now that you may necessarily not have had to face back then. Okay, and so this is something that I think is changing the dynamics, and that's why I said in this instance, I don't think that history is going to repeat itself. And even in the Great Depression, people did flee the cities, and they did flee the farmlands, and they went out into the woods to forage. And, what actually ended up happening is some of those groups actually turned into cannibals. And post-World War II, we actually had to send the military, I think it's on the Pennsylvania-Tennessee border. There's a story on YouTube about it. But yeah, in the early or after World War II, they actually had to send soldiers in there because there were people that would come up missing on these trails. And when they come up missing on the trails, they realized that there was a group of cannibals, and they were picking off people, mostly young women and children. And then, they were roasting them over a spit. And so they had to go in there, and they had to go in there and take these people out. But, with everything that's going on, because, as far as the land, being able to give up food, the population was probably about a third of what it is right now. We're at about 10 billion people. I would say we probably had around 2 billion people back then. And so if you have 2 billion people versus 10 billion people trying to pull on all of the available resources, it's going to be a lot more scarce, and it's going to be a lot harder. Where your option is if you don't have the ability to grow either indoors or outdoors because of all these different things and legislation that they're passing to be able to gain control. We got to hear about the climate control with the thermostats, and we've got to hear about a few other things. You won't eat me, right? No, Rick, I won't eat you. But anyways, so I can barely see because the sun is there, so I apologize. But this is where I can get my best signal. And so, I mean, this is just something that I think, and based upon a Billy Meyer prediction, as he said, that with famine and climate change and stuff like that, people will be, and people are stepping on each other right now, as that they will end up being forced into the woods and into the high areas to be able to avoid a lot of the climate catastrophes and economic issues that we're going to face. But, one thing that, to draw a correlation between what happened in the Great Depression versus what happened now is in the Great Depression, one of the things that most people don't know about is that in 1912, I believe it was when the Federal Reserve Act was passed. In 1912, the Federal Reserve was given a 20-year charter. So that means in 1932, that charter was up. And so the Federal Reserve, in its own way, to be able to suck the money out of the system, because they had to plan or anticipate or at least show what would happen if you canceled the charter. Well, because of that, not only did we go from gold and silver as our money supply through House Joint Resolution 192, but the Federal Reserve would end up getting a 100-year charter over all of this. Okay, and so that could be correlated to the CBDC that we're dealing with right now. See, the Federal Reserve, it actually has complete control over the economy. As far as interest rates and stuff like that. But we're also, with all these boomers retiring, it's really throwing the employment market upside down, because there's about to be more jobs than there are people, because the boomers were the biggest section of workers there are, and they're getting to the end of where they could all retire, and there's no more boomers left in the workforce. And so this is going to play into the whole jobs market, but you could also say that that's probably the reason why they're bringing 20 million migrants across the border as well, to be able to fill those jobs so that the employers can keep suppressing wages while prices go up and you can barely afford to live. Okay. Also during that time, we had a trade war. At that point in time, I think it was Britain that was the global power at that time. Don't quote me on that. It was one of the European powers. And so just like we're doing a transition of power right now from west to east, because Russia and China are going to be the influencers for the next century, we did the same thing in a trade war. And through that trade war, it actually sparked hi, Hobo Thomas. It actually sparked a world war. Some say that this was anticipated. Some say that this was created artificially. But regardless, the facts are the facts. Is this happened, and then this happened, and then this happened. And even the Great Depression, there was also a famine in Europe and Russia as a result, and China as a result of the famines that were going on in the 30s. And this is kind of why they talk about how much blood is on the hand of the communists, because at least here in the States, we still had a large enough farm community. But when you've got Bill Gates owning a large section of it and then deciding what we eat, it's gonna be a lot different. And people are going to want to go out there and grow for themselves. Back in the day, it used to be move to the city, make a lot of money. Now it's make a lot of money and move out of the city. So things like this are, having a beer, good. Things like this are, things are changing. The dynamics are changing. So history shows us what happens when you have a rural community that experiences financial hardships or a financial collapse. Yes, but we are, population-wise, we are doing much more drain on the resources of the planet, but also we've all been centralized into cities. I mean, I would say more than 50% of the U.S. population lives in a city of 100,000 or more. Maybe more than that, but I would estimate that would, yeah. Oh, okay. Good to see you guys. You know what? Hey, light me a bowl too. But anyways, these are the things that when it comes to seeing the economic downturn that we're having, and that is being, in a lot of ways, if you follow Billy Meyer like I do, this was planned. And this was planned as far back as 2017, as far as how to deal with the pandemic and take control of the global political and economic system, which is what they've done at the World Economic Forum. I mean, it used to be that they would keep this stuff hush hush. Now, if you notice, all this stuff is actually coming into fruition, and this is something that or they're being very public about it, and this is something that I guess me as an individual, I notice, and I think it's something to be concerned about, because when they get to a point to where they can be public and blatant and open about what they're doing, then that means that they already have the control. They're just waiting for you to get in line. Okay, so that was the first thing that I wanted to talk about, and the second thing that I wanted to talk about, and I would okay, so all right, I'm kind of trying to keep up on the comments while I'm talking, but one of the other things that I wanted to talk about is the direction of the channel. Since I got you guys here, you guys are my regulars that show up here. I'm sure I'll see a few more people show up here shortly, but one of the things that I'm really curious about is I mean, do you think that I fit the bill of a prepper channel? Canadian Free, I think was his name, said that, you know, most prepper channels, all they do is like current events. Very small percentage of them do actual bug out stuff, like, you know, and the rest are doing gear. So, I mean, very little of the prepping community actually teaches you how to prep. They're either keeping you up on current events, or they are, or they're trying to sell you gear. And I get the whole gear part. I mean, that makes sense. I mean, if I use my gear and the gear that I use on a daily basis, I have affiliate links for, and, you know, on one hand, but on the other hand, you know, I'm not just a prepper. I am a traveling hobo. I'm a nomad, a rubber tramp. You know, you can call me whatever you want, but, you know, I do more than just that. So when I get on the road and I start traveling, you know, at that point in time, I feel like I lose the effect of being a prepper channel. Or is there a different way in which I should be doing it? I mean, this is really the question that I'm trying to this is one of. Oh, no worries, guys. I mean, you don't have to give me money. If you do, you do. If you don't, you don't. It goes into it for supplies. I mean, just so you guys know, everything that I got helped out with when I said I needed help, I mean, you guys not only gave me enough money to be able to buy my charge cord so that I could keep up with my YouTube, which I honestly, that really, like, you know, hit close to home. That really made me feel special that you guys did something like that. But I was also able to replace the replace my bike lock, because in Tallahassee it got snipped. And so because you guys helped me out, I mean, you guys seem to help me out when I need it most, instead of when I'm just like, you know, being a whiny little brat. And no, you know, you guys seem to always come in and help me when I need it the most. And so you know, I gotta say, you know, I strongly appreciate you guys and the support that you guys give me. And, you know, this is one of my favorite times to come through and to see you guys, and because I really love being able to have these conversations and see the conversations that are going on. Because, I mean, Rick and Thomas, you guys have been here most every time. There's a few people that aren't here that I haven't seen yet. But, you know, feel free to chime in, guys. If you guys have any questions about my methodology, about the things that I'm doing and stuff like that. So one of the things that I would really like to get into doing is I would like to... I would like to, and part of when I'm, I'll tell you some more in a minute, but one of the things that I have planned for this spring is I really need to go out into the woods and sit for a couple of weeks. I just need to put up a tent, bring enough food, have access to water. You know, I've got a water filtration system. I need to make sure that I either replace my cooking kit with something like, some people told me about some that are twigs, or an alcohol burner. I think I'm going to look into those, because the fuel is a lot less expensive and easier to use. And so I want to be able to sit out there and, you know, cook myself some food and just sit back and kind of just unwind from all of this crap that's going on in the world. Because I don't know about you guys, but, you know, every time I turn on the news or try and get some information, it seems like the whole world is falling apart, and it's falling apart worse than yeah, marry a rich lady. Even so, whenever I turn it on, it seems like, oh yeah, so we just had this whole Chinese, or I guess they're calling it a Chinese balloon that went off. They finally shot it down, going over the United States, you know, or, you know, we've got nuclear submarines off of our coast because our government is trying to escalate war. And I mean, whether you realize it or not, subconsciously this creates stress for an individual. So for me, I think I really want to go sit in the woods for a couple of weeks, put my head in the sand, maybe show you guys how I live and you know, kind of how I'm doing it. in an off-grid style, because I mean, there are people that live in the woods. So, one of the things you're going to have to learn is how to either spot or avoid these people so that you guys don't get caught up in something that you don't want. Also, tomorrow I'm supposed to, sorry guys, we got wind coming in. I think it might rain tonight again. So, but anyways, tomorrow I'm supposed to go down to the labor hall. I've got some people that got some connections. They say I should get some work tomorrow. I finally, with the boots and the pants, I can actually show up there and get sent out on a job, because I can't show up in tennis shoes and shorts, or even long johns. So, tomorrow I'm hoping that I get put to work. And, that's going to be put towards this funding for this little side project that I want to do. So, So yeah, we need to have each other's backs. That is totally true. I mean, it'd be nice if subscribers were able to form their own connections in their own regions, because it will allow you guys to be able to communicate with each other. One of the things that I realized when I came back here to Gainesville, other than, oh my God, I didn't realize, you got to realize, this spot here in Gainesville is probably the best spot for you to be in. Not only if you're homeless, but if you're a traveler. And I really think that there should be something like this should be set up every so many miles, because here's the ugly truth about a lot of these homeless shelters is that in the homeless community, most of the people that are, you're homeless, so that means you're low-hanging fruit, which means the police are going to come there and they're going to lock you up and throw you in jail. Well, once you get out of jail, they drop you off at a local homeless shelter. Well, then that homeless shelter, they still want to keep your mind in jail, so they have you do things like, remove your shoes. You can't bring in nail clippers because they got a file on them. Oh, you can't bring in little tiny little scissors that I use to trim my beard and my mustache. You can't bring that in because that's considered a weapon. And then all of a sudden, these guys get out of jail to go right back into jail and to be treated like they're in jail. And then in a lot of ways, it starts institutionalizing them. And I've never really done a lot when it comes to going into shelters until this time, just because the resources are a lot more scarce than they were 10 years ago. 10 years ago, I could have done just fine. But also, as I've gotten older, I really like my hygiene. The longest I've went without a shower is like 45 days. And so, I mean, that was a giant wake-up call to me. And that's part of the reason why this time out, I wanted to make sure that, I stayed close to resources. But when I saw all the resources in such one spot, because normally you have to walk across the city. It's so spread out that you got to go in a lot of different places just to be able to find the resources, versus here, it's all in one spot. You don't have to go anywhere. If between the food stamps and between the little side hustles I do here, and maybe going to the labor hall, I could literally, I can literally be as static as I need to. And for me, I need the rest, especially after, doing a 500-mile round trip over 24 days. I mean, that really drained me. I needed to be able to stay static. I needed to be able to do gear maintenance. I needed to be able to have a place where I could sit there and let my stuff out. And most of these homeless shelters, you won't be able to get that opportunity. You'll be very, very lucky unless you go out into rural areas. But then in the rural areas, they don't want the homeless out there because they see them as a blight on the community. Okay? And so it rises crime according to them, and it also causes home values to drop because of not only the rising crime, but now you've got homeless in there. And so in order to be able to retain their home values, they want to be able to kick the poor, the indigent, and those people out, or at least sweep them under the rug. Because in places like Daytona, what they do is they will have you on the outskirts of the city, like the shelter. Even here in Gainesville, the shelter's on the outskirts of the city, but for some reason it's still close enough into city. You still got to go another 5 miles in Daytona just to get from the shelter into the nearest convenience store that you could use food stamps or even cash at. So, I mean, they really are trying to force you out of the city. And in one sense, it works out great for you because you have the ability to camp, but then, you know, you've got the police coming by and putting up no trespassing signs everywhere you go. So they're like, yeah, we want you out here, but you can't sleep out here either. You just need to keep moving. And, you know, to see when a large section of the society, its roof over its head, and gets to a point where the ability to put a roof over their head, because the price of food is going up, especially with what we're having happen economically and through trade. I mean, it's going to be something that it's going to be something that's going to be very trying on a lot of us, because we're the population through policy and through intentional blunders is being thinned down through natural. Okay, we're going to do a worldwide birth stop, okay? For like 7 years, you can't have a kid. And then allow people to have kids for like 7 years. And to be able to make it, I mean, it's much easier for a bad parent to have a kid just through the natural way than it is for them to go and to adopt. And so I think that maybe a lot of what will fix our social and our economic issues is the ability to put some sort of requirements to be able to have a child. Like, you have to have 1 year salary set aside, because kids are not cheap. I mean, if it wasn't for when my son was born, the rate at which he grew, if it wasn't for people doing hand-me-downs and, you know, and being able to get help from within the family, totally sucked. I mean, it would really, really sucked. We were in so many ways, we were almost too poor income, which was mine. Okay. And, you know, and the thing is if you, like, in that situation, if my ex-wife would have gone to work, well, you know what, all the money that she made was going to pay for daycare, because they want 12 to 15 bucks an hour. When I was a kid, my mom made like $7.25 an hour as a CNA, and they charged $2.25 an hour for me and $2.75 an hour for my little sister, because she's about 8-9 years younger than me. You know, versus what we have right now, where you have people that want 15. I mean, when my ex-wife and I were looking for a babysitter for my son, yeah, 15 bucks an hour. We literally had to take our food stamps and a little bit of cash and give it to our retired neighbor to watch our son, because we couldn't afford to actually have a babysitter. So I think that in some ways there does need to be some sort of prerequisites before you can have a child. But also on the other end, I think it would be much more humane, instead of, you know, starving us to death and blowing us up through wars and through different oppressive policies, to slowly kill us off this way. Then it would be much easier just to say, let's do a worldwide birth stop. And I think that it would benefit not only the ecosystem, but it would benefit us as a society, because it would make us more responsible, more conscious about the toll in which we take, because there's only so much you can grow. Okay, there's only so much arable land, and for each person, you need so much land. And, you know, you're going to reach a point where you have more people than there is arable land, because on top of that, all this arable land is being taken away, such as, like, you know, our Earth's lungs are the forests. And, you know, if you cut down a forest to build a subdivision, now all of a sudden you're making the air dirtier because it has less of a filter. And then you're taking something that was part of the ecosystem and that actually helped pollinate and do the necessary things. You're putting a hindrance on that as well. So this is just my personal thoughts, but you know, I'd love to know what you guys think. Okay, I mean, that's the whole part of this conversation. But I think that having something like this would be a little bit more responsible than what we're doing right now. What we're doing right now, I would consider to be borderline heinous. I mean, if you guys watched the video I put up yesterday about my friend whose name I can't give, who destroyed an alphabet soup black site after he got his friend, or our friend, out of jail. Well, it wasn't even jail. It was just a torture chamber. I mean, you know, so don't have rent, have pro property tax instead. Yeah, you know what? Property tax is just another form of rent. Why are you paying property tax? I mean, don't you own the land? Or do you only own the structure on the land and you're renting the land from the government? And, you know, this is another question that you should probably ask your ask at your county commissioner meeting, and ask them, like, why do I have to pay property taxes? You know, don't I own the land? You know, so I mean, you're only paying taxes on things that you rent. You know, so just think about that. So anyways, guys, man, I started off the last couple of days, I've had a toothache, and because my ears get backed up, I've had chronic ear infections my whole life. And so this is probably the best I've felt in the last 2 days. I think it's because I got distracted. I'm thinking about you guys. All right, so this live stream is going to be up for about it's going to be up till tomorrow morning, like it always is, and then it's going to go over to Patreon. I would like to get some of you guys over to Patreon. I mean, at $5 a month for the daily videos. I mean, it's I know $5 to some may be a lot, but I really try and bring value over there. And, you know, right now I have a couple of people over there, and I'd like to get up to about 10. That way I can really focus on more critical content for you guys, you know, such as my methodology and some of the stuff that I do, because some of it, I just don't feel that it's video worthy, or that I have enough to talk on a full-on topic. Whereas with you guys, you know, you're paying for the knowledge, for the information, for the experience, access to things. So I mean, it is what it is something that I thought that that I would bring up. But also, if you haven't hit the bell notification, you know, make sure you hit the bell notification. That way, every time I release a video, you can watch it. Also, you know, I need like less than 300 subscribers now. I'm really doing well on watch hours. Thank you guys for being dedicated as you guys are. Ah, okay, Rick, you're in Orlando. Okay, that's nice. Okay, see, okay, you're a retired hobo. Okay, that is good. So, well, you're lucky, Thomas, that you have no, it's Rick that has a big garden in his HOA. Sometimes they don't allow those. Oh wow, 30 years. Oh wow, we're just getting old. Yeah, you know, and the thing is the older generation. You guys, have you taken the chance to talk with your children and your grandchildren, and to make sure that they have the necessary skills? Like, my mom was big on canning, but you know what? My mom refused to teach me to can because, oh, this is for the girls, it's not for the boys. You know what? You kind of got to get over some of those traditions and make sure that your children understand these things, because, you know, they may not be interested in it now, but when it comes time to they need it, those are skills that they could have that will save their life. I mean, you may not be around for some of this stuff, especially if you're in your 60s, like my old man. You know, I mean, in the next 10 years, he's probably going to pass away due to something else. So with that being said, I mean, you know, it would have been nice if he would have passed on some skills to me that would have helped me, you know, survive in life should things happen. And I think the older generation, the boomers right now, I think that's something that they've lost in society, is that, you know, it used to be the grandmas and grandpas would teach the grandchildren while the parents went off to work. And now the grandparents didn't teach their children, and they didn't teach their grandchildren. So if you have the opportunity, make sure that your children are fully aware. And even if they're not really into it, the thing is it's going to be knowledge that they're going to be glad that they had when they get older, when the situation comes, and like, man, I'm glad my mom taught me how to can. Now I can preserve my whole garden and, you know, keep it over the winter. You know, canning is a lost art. Sewing is a lost art. You know, building fires is a lost art. I mean, there's very few, like in my camp, there's like 4 of us, and only one of us is really good at building fires. And I tell you, it's not me. You know, I mean, I'm learning from them, and I'm learning how to do it on my own, but also bugging out the way that I do, traveling. You know, when I travel, I can't have fires because that's the first thing to really bring people in. Now, if I'm at a primitive campsite or something like that, or a paid campsite, then I can have a fire. But you know, you're gonna bring trouble, because I mean, every once in a while when you see the fire didn't get out of control, skyline, and then they send the fire department, and so next thing you know, you're at 2 o'clock in the morning, here comes the fire department looking for a fire that you know, and they show up and they see that you got your fire pit and that you got your blocks around it and all that stuff, and it's like, well, there's nothing you can do, the fire's not dangerous, but you know, these guys keep getting calls. And so it's just another thing that, you know, will alert people to where you are when you're trying to be incognito. Maybe when I go out for that 2 weeks, maybe at that point in time, I will build a fire, you know, because Puck has taught me the easy way to build a fire, even with wet. I mean, I've been paying attention, you know, and at least seeing what materials he's using. But you know, you got to have a lot of leaves and twigs around to be able to do that, and use that as your fire starter. And what's funny is that you know, even in the rain, he's able to using leaves and twigs, he's still able to start a fire. It starts off smoldering, and then as it dries it out, then it burns it off. But again, this is something that I am that I'm still trying to learn myself, because these are skills that should have been passed down to me, that were never passed down to me as a child. And so, you know, it actually hinders me in some ways. So Moonlight. Okay. I'm just trying to keep up with you guys. Okay. All right. So it looks like you guys really have, I like the conversation you guys are having. I'll probably have to come back and rewatch it, afterwards, but, you know, it is what it is. So before I get to a point where I'm going to start winding down this live stream, do you guys have any questions for me? Of things I'm doing, directions of the channel? Do you have any advice for me of things that you think I should be doing? Do you have any topics that you think that I should be talking about? Because you guys, the content, like the content I make, it's for you guys. It's to help you guys navigate the situation, not just because of news. So like with the Prepper channel, I don't want to be a news guy. I want to be able to show you guys real practical things. But some of these things, I guess I don't know what you guys don't know, so it's kind of hard to pick up and figure out and teach you guys what I know you don't know. Okay, now, you know, like panhandling, yeah, but nobody wants, you got to realize that panhandling is probably maybe 10 or 20% of the homeless population. Most of the homeless population figures out other ways to make money. And right now I hear that scrap metal is doing really well in price. So if you want to go out and scrap some metal, scrap metal is, you know, scrap metal is going up, especially considering we got a war going on. You know, metal is definitely going to go up. So collecting your cans and turning them in, collecting any type of metal. You know, there's plenty of metal on the side of the roads because of the blowout tires. You know how many wires are in there. Those things get in my tire and they're a pain in the butt. So if there's people picking them up off the road, it makes my drive a little bit easier, at least on a bike. So, okay. So, right, make see God for free. Yeah. That's funny, Hobo Thomas. That's funny. That is definitely hilarious. So, all right, guys. Okay. Oh. Wow. Okay. You guys are, all right. No measuring contest in chat. Okay. No measuring contest. All right. All right, guys. So if you want to help out the channel, you guys are hilarious. Man, I love you guys. I really do. I'm so glad that you guys are here and that you guys stick with me. Again, if there's anything that I can do to help you out as far as teaching you the things that I know and the things that I experience, most definitely. Yeah, definitely. Well, that's good because like attracts alike. So, anybody want to spot me a bowl? So anyways, with that being said, guys, all right. So like, subscribe, share, come on over to Patreon. I'll leave this in the, I will leave this up for 24 hours or at least, or you can come back to this video about 10-15 minutes after I end it. By then I'll be able to copy and paste all the links in there for anything that you want directly out of this video. Either way works for me. And don't feel obligated to earned it. I mean, even when back when I had lots of money, just when I had money, sometimes you just come across a content creator and you're like, I like what this person's doing, I just want to support them. But don't feel like you're obligated to. It's just something that makes my life a little bit easier to be able to do. So please, okay, newly homeless, kind of like so far. What do you need to learn as far as being newly homeless? Some basic advice. Now, you should go look through some of my videos. I should make a homeless playlist. But one of the things that I would strive, be careful of what you do and where you get things from. Be careful when it comes to the drugs, because every once in a while people will lace your stuff. Even me, I've got to be wary. I've got to know who I'm getting it from. One of the things I always tell people is that if you give me anything other than weed, you're going to put me in the hospital. When I come out of the hospital, I'm looking for you. That usually kind of gets them to think twice and be like, oh, okay. That's the most important thing. Also, make sure that you're going to attach themselves to you because they think that they're entitled to what it is that you have. So be very, very wary of it, and don't be flashing your money. Don't be bragging about the things that you have. Just basically keep your head low and under the radar, and that will keep a lot of your stuff safe. People, I know a lot of people know the type of gear that I have, but I always talk crap about it. Oh man, my sleeping bag, I didn't do well last night, because now all of a sudden they're going, oh, well, I don't want to go steal that sleeping bag. It's things like that if you talk down on your gear, even if it's the greatest gear in the world, if you talk it down, it will keep your stuff safe, because people will think that you have poor stuff. A second thing is always make sure that you do inventory. One of the things that I always do, and it gets me in trouble when I don't do it sometimes, it's how I lost my charger to begin with, is that I will pack up everything, and then I'll walk probably about 20 feet down the road or out of the spot, and then I will turn back, I'll go back, I'll look, and I'll do a fine-tooth comb just to make sure I didn't drop anything. Because when you're moving in and out of your bags quick, especially if you have to constantly pop up and pop down your gear, it's going to make a huge difference in whether or not you're going to be able to keep your stuff. Because when you get in a hurry and when you get fatigued and you're just like, I'm tired, or you kind of start, oh, this is just a normal routine, you don't even think about what you're doing, those are the times in which you make the biggest mistakes, and you lose the things that are probably the most valuable or most important, or you damage the things that are valuable and important. For example, I've always had the rule, don't smoke in my tent. Well, it got really rainy for a couple of days. I smoked in my tent. I got a big old hole in the bottom of my tent I had to tape up because of it. You kind of make sure that you take care of your gear. Your gear will take care of you. Make sure that you don't put away anything wet. And if it is wet, make sure within a couple of hours that you take some time out, like when you're on a break in your travels and, you've got some direct sunlight, just to make sure to clean it, to dry it all out. One, it will reduce the weight of the gear, which weight is important. Secondly, another thing that you're going to need to really think about is It's just, you know, the mold. Like with my tent, because it's been put away wet and then it was never pulled out to be dried for a couple of days, I got a little bit of mold on it. Well, you know, and it was because I let somebody else use it. And because this is something that I've always done. And on a rare occasion, actually, no, I made a mistake when I was in Tallahassee. You know, it was a cold front coming through. So I was in for a couple of days. My tent was wet when I put it away. I thought I would take it out the next day, but it was cold. So I was like, screw this. And then so I had to wait another day. But within 24 hours, you should dry your stuff out, not only for weight, but also to keep it good. Because the last thing you want to do is get sick because you didn't take care of your gear and now it's all moldy. Okay, so that's something to be thoughtful about as well. Okay, so thieves get stitches, narcs and bitches. I like that one. Okay, for AT&T. Okay, good, fun. Okay, I don't want to join the military. I just want to be free. Well, you don't have to join the military to be free. Honestly, I think that this is something that it's part of the propaganda to be able to create the all-volunteer army, is that they give you the most benefits and you get a lot of clout within society. But America is not its military. America is you and me. And by taking care of each other, by doing well by each other, that is your act of patriotism. By respecting the unalienable or inalienable rights that everybody has, the right of free speech. So what if somebody offends you? Oh, well, get over it. You know, so what if somebody has a gun? As long as they're being responsible with it, who cares? You know, who cares? You know, you don't want people going to jail for double jeopardy. You don't want to have to draw and quarter troops. You want to be able to have due process, and you want to be able to have all these things. And, you know, none of that requires the military. It requires you and me doing our part to respect those and then to hold our politicians accountable. And that doesn't mean that you have to be involved in politics, but you do, if you don't like the laws, well, the only people that can change those laws are your politicians. So to say I'm not into politics is kind of like is almost like shooting yourself in the foot. Why would you? It's not like you have to be involved in the dogma of, oh, I'm a Republican, you know, da da da, or oh, I'm a liberal, I'm a Democrat. No, I'm neither. I am if anything, I would be a libertarian. A liberal-leaning libertarian. But the other part is I'm looking at the content, what these guys say that they want to do. I'm looking at the direction in which they say that they want to represent me to send the country off in that specific direction. Now, using my own deductive reasoning, I make a decision of, okay, this guy is good and this guy isn't. Has nothing to do with political parties. And I think that that's where people get it confused, is that politics is not about politics is about political parties, but you do have to pick your representative, which has nothing to do with political parties and has to do with the direction in which you think that the country should be going. Okay, and that's just my personal opinion. You all have your personal opinion, but this is something that I think as individuals that you guys should really consider, is even though you're not involved in politics, you don't want to be involved in the left, the right, or the center. You just want to be able to make sure that the country goes in the right direction that you think it should be going. Well, then that's your duty. That's your diligence. That is the reaffirmation of the Constitution. See, there are some people out there, and this will be what I end the show on. Okay, so there are some people out there that call the Constitution what's called a cess decay trust. Go look it up. I'm going to let you look this up on your own. Other people call it a contract. Those that call it a contract say that once the original signers to the contract are dead, that contract is null and void. However, there is one caveat that they're completely missing in that argument, which is every 4 years when you vote for president, every 2 years when you vote for your representative or your senator, okay, which that's supposed to be done by the states, but whatever, okay. But every 2 to 4 years, when you go out and you vote, you're reaffirming the Constitution. When you stop voting, when as a collective, when you get less than when you get less than 60% people that turn out for the presidential election, because that is the most important one. That is our commander-in-chief. That is the head representative to the rest of the world. Congress works domestically. The president works internationally. And so, you know, he is our international voice. And when you have less than 60%, that is when you could pretty much say that the Constitution is dead, because less than 60% of the people are reaffirming their belief in the Constitution and in the representatives that they have within it. Now, I know it's it's a slippery slope, and I know it's a double-edged sword and all these other cliches, but this is something that maybe you should take some time and really ponder it. But, you know, when you go out and you vote in as many ways as possible, you are reaffirming that Constitution, okay? And it has, if we're going to get representatives that represent us, first of all, Congress needs to be expanded. Second of all, it requires an educated voter that's not stuck on party line politics, but is stuck on, okay, this is the direction I think the country should go. I think that this guy, his points, what he wants to accomplish while he's in office, I think this is the best way to go. One, you'll change the political landscape and the way that the ads are done, and it will actually give us more of an opportunity to, instead of being party line, to actually go out there and to choose the proper representatives that will keep the country going in the right direction, so we don't deal with this clusterfuck we got going on right now. Okay, you're a one-time widow, okay, on a bike. All right, I mean, Mary, I miss being free. Oh, okay. Well, Hobo Thomas, that's good to know. Yeah, honestly, I think marriage is overrated in the modern era. It's just a free meal ticket for someone else. So, all right, guys, you know how to help the channel. Like, subscribe, share. This will be up until tomorrow. I'll put the links in here after I end this video. If you have any topic suggestions, please let me know. I will see you guys next Sunday. And I'm going to try and see if I can get a second live stream during the week going, just to see if you guys notice, I'm enjoying this, okay? And so you get very little joys out here from time to time. So, I mean, you guys are what keep me going sometimes, especially when life gets rough. So I might try and put a second live stream in for those in the middle of the week, you know, that want to be able to be on there. So, all right, guys, I will see you in the next video, and thank you for watching.